So I went down the rabbit hole of this Jay-Z Are You My Daddy lawsuit, and I'm not a lawyer, but after reading all of the documents, the transcripts, the orders, and the appeals, there are 4 key things to know about this case. Let me give you the recap. For context up front, this is Rymere Satterthwaite, and the resemblance to Jay-Z is low-key hilarious. Rymere's mother was 16 at the time she got pregnant with him, and according to Google, since he is now 32 and Jay-Z is 55, that would mean if Jay-Z is the father, Jay-Z was 23 at the time that Rymere was conceived and the mother was 16. You see the problem. Okay, so on to the case. On June 10, 2010, Rymere's mother, whose name is Wanda, filed a motion in Pennsylvania courts requesting that Jay-Z and another man named Robert Graves take a paternity test regarding her son, Rymere. Now, it's important to understand that up until this point, Robert Graves was understood to be the father of Rymere, and he had been paying child support for Rymere for 16 years. But Wanda wanted this test done to show that Robert was in fact not Rymere's father and that Jay-Z, according to her, is. At one hearing in 2013, Wanda told a judge that she always knew Robert Graves was not Rymere's father, but she didn't pursue going after Jay-Z when Rymere was little because she was constantly working and because she was in a relationship with Robert Graves and she was pregnant with her second child, which she knew he was the father of. So she just said he was the father of Rymere too. So fast forward to about a month after Wanda puts in this initial petition, and while a judge grants the petition regarding Robert Graves, the judge denied the petition regarding Jay-Z. And the judge said it's denied because a mother cannot wait 17 years to name a second person as the father of her child when for 16 years she has said that this other man, meaning Robert Graves, was the father, and she never made any indication that that wasn't the truth until now. So the petition for Jay-Z to take the test was denied. About 8 months later, Wanda files another petition requesting Jay-Z to take a test. It was again filed in Pennsylvania, and the judge for the second request again denies her request, saying that the matter was res judicata, which basically means a judge has already ruled on this. And the judge notes in the order that if Wanda did not agree with the first denial, the proper thing to do would have been for her to appeal that denial, not wait 8 months to just file a new request. So while all of this back and forth regarding Jay-Z is happening, the results for the paternity test for Robert Graves comes back and confirms that he is not the father of Rymere. And so at this point, Rymere's godmother steps in and she files a petition in New Jersey, not Pennsylvania where everything else had been filed. She files this new request in New Jersey. But the judge in New Jersey denies the godmom's request, saying that this issue has already been dealt with in Pennsylvania, and so there's no reason for a New Jersey judge to try to step in and re-examine it. From here, Rymere's mother, Wanda, begins her appeal process. She takes the paternity test from Robert Graves, showing that he's not the father, and argues that that's reason enough for the denials to be overturned. And it worked. A Pennsylvania court agreed with Wanda and said that even though she didn't file her appeal within 30 days, which is when the appeal deadline expired, this newfound evidence of this DNA test qualifies as extraordinary enough to waive the 30-day rule, vacate the denial orders, and grant Wanda's petition for Jay-Z to take the test. But then Jay-Z said, not so fast. He appealed her appeal, and on April 23, 2013, the denial orders are put back in place. The Superior Court of Pennsylvania, that overturned Wanda's appeal, said that the 30-day rule is typically only waived when a person in a case finds out their ruling late. So as an example, if Wanda didn't find out that her petition was denied until 30 days after the judge ruled on it, that would be reason enough to waive the 30 days because she wouldn't have known her petition was denied and therefore couldn't have appealed within the 30 days. But the Superior Court says that's not what happened here. Wanda was well aware her petition was denied and she had enough time to appeal it in the proper time frame. She just didn't. And so the denial orders are put back in place, and that leads me to the first thing you need to know about this case, which is that as of now, Jay-Z is not court ordered to take a DNA test regarding Rymere. He, like I said, was ordered for a brief time to take one, but once those denial orders were put back in place, he was no longer required to take a test. Now moving on to thing you should know number 2, which is that Rymere, his mother, and his godmother were basically banned from filing lawsuits in the state of New Jersey. Let me explain. So a few months after the denial orders were reinstated in Pennsylvania, Wanda filed a new petition in New Jersey. Yes, after the godmom filed one in New Jersey and got denied, Wanda herself filed one in New Jersey. And just like the Godmom's case, the New Jersey judge in Wanda's case denied the petition, ruling that New Jersey did not have jurisdiction over this case. The judge ruled that since the case was originally filed, argued, and ruled on in Pennsylvania, New Jersey courts just can't step in and try to counter what Pennsylvania already did. Courts have to respect and have faith in the court systems of other states. So Wanda's New Jersey petition gets denied. Over the next 9 years, there continued to be issues surrounding the case and things that Rymir and his family were allegedly doing. And so in January of 2022, a New Jersey judge issued an order prohibiting Rymir, his mother, and his godmother from being able to file anything in the state of New Jersey without the judge first reviewing and determining that it was filed properly with proper claims and proper requests for relief. And then the judge sent this order prohibiting them from filing anything, basically across all of New Jersey, so everybody was aware that they can't do that. And from there, Rymir, his mom, and his godmother sued the courts. Literally sued New Jersey Supreme Court and judges in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. But those lawsuits were dismissed with prejudice. Okay, so that brings me to thing you need to know number 3, which is that Rymir's latest lawsuit against Jay-Z, which was filed in California, is not a petition for a paternity test. Rymir is suing Jay-Z because, according to him, throughout this entire ordeal, Jay-Z has been manipulating the court system, misrepresenting facts, and committing fraud, all in an effort to avoid taking this paternity test and to deny Rymir his constitutional rights. Specifically, Rymir says, quote, "This action is not about child support per se. It's about the extensive misconduct of defendant Carter and others committed to avoid being held accountable at all. Plaintiff Rymir brings this complaint to hold defendant Carter liable for his willful abuse of power and disregard for the law." Did I mention Rymir is representing himself? He's pro se. So Rymir's biggest claim in this new lawsuit actually has to do with New Jersey denying his mother's petition based on jurisdiction. Rymir argues that the New Jersey court denying his mother's petition based on lack of jurisdiction was incorrect because he has proof that Jay-Z lived in and owned property in New Jersey at the time the petitions were filed. But here's the thing. And I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like Rymir is partly right, but also partly wrong. So New Jersey did deny his mother's petition based on jurisdiction, but it was based on 2 types of jurisdiction. The first is personal jurisdiction, and that has to do with a person's ties to a state. So if Jay-Z and his attorneys were telling the judge that Jay-Z has no ties to New Jersey at all, which is apparently what they did, and that's why this case should not be handled in New Jersey, then that means Rymir has a point because it would indicate New Jersey did in fact have the right and the authority to rule on a case involving Jay-Z. However, the second type of jurisdiction that the case was denied on is called subject matter jurisdiction, and that's the bigger problem. So subject matter jurisdiction has to do with a court's ability or authority to hear a case at all. So in this instance, Rymir's mother originally filed this case in Pennsylvania. It was determined to be under the jurisdiction of Pennsylvania. The case was then argued in Pennsylvania, and a Pennsylvania judge ruled on the case. So at this point, unless Rymir is able to show that the case should have never been in Pennsylvania to begin with, or that there's some kind of massive evidence or reason that a New Jersey court should step in and ignore what Pennsylvania ruled on, he's essentially stuck with the Pennsylvania ruling, because states aren't in the habit of just stepping in and overruling what another state has already decided. If that was the case, every time somebody lost a case, they would just refile it in a new state. So a New Jersey judge attempted to explain the subject matter jurisdiction issue to Rymir and his mother at a hearing, but Rymir's response to that was, if Jay-Z wasn't famous, he believes the situation would go differently. Specifically, Rymir told the judge that it seems like since Jay-Z is famous, he's untouchable and has the ability to get around a lot. The judge then replied to that remark by telling Rymir that she actually had no idea who Jay-Z was, and it wasn't until her law clerk told her that he was Beyonce's husband that she said, quote, "Oh, I know Beyonce." So all of that to say, even if Rymir can actually prove that Jay-Z lied and has ties to New Jersey, that still doesn't fix the subject matter jurisdiction problem, and that problem is the biggest problem. But those alleged lies factor into why Rymir is currently suing Jay-Z. His first cause of action is deceit by concealment. The second cause of action is abuse of process, and that has to do with Ramir's belief that Jay-Z lied about his ties to New York to obstruct and ultimately have his mother's petition request denied. And then there's intentional infliction of emotional distress and unjust enrichment, which has to do with Ramir's belief that Jay-Z benefited from not taking the paternity test because he was able to keep the money he otherwise would have had to pay in child support. I don't think that's how that worked. In addition to those causes of action, Ramir is also asking this California court to make all the previous judgments, orders, and other court actions regarding this entire case null, void, and unenforceable. And that leads me to my fourth point that you should know, which is also of no surprise. Jay-Z wants Ramir's California lawsuit dismissed. Jay-Z's attorneys filed a motion to have the lawsuit dismissed, and they cited 4 reasons why it should be. Number 1, they say Jay-Z was not served properly because apparently Ramir tried to serve him through U.S. mail, but in California, you can't do that. And even if you could do that, the proof of service that Ramir uploaded only says delivered in or at mailbox in Malibu, California. It doesn't give an actual address that it was delivered to. Reason number 2 they say it should be dismissed is because according to them, this is basically Ramir's version of an appeal. And they say that's clear because he's asking the court to make all the previous rulings and orders null and void, which is something appellate courts do, not federal courts in other states. And then reason number 3 is because of something called litigation privilege. And this is basically like a legal rule that says that what someone does or says in a court case can't be the basis to which they are sued. And then the final reason they say it should be dismissed is because according to them, Ramir is basically trying to sue Jay-Z for defending himself. The attorneys note that Jay-Z replying to petitions and using legal basis to defend himself is not him influencing the courts, it's just him defending himself. And so after all of that, do you know Ramir withdrew his California complaint today? I'm so pissed because I have been working on this video all for this man to withdraw the complaint. I've heard rumors that it could come back, but whatever. Anyway, I still want to know, do you think Jay-Z should take the test? Or does him taking the test indicate that there's a possibility he could have been the father? Let me know what you think in the comments.